Welcome to Inside Startup Investing, the only podcast where you can invest in every guest. On this episode, I will be speaking with the founder and CEO of Totem, Carter Fowler. As a reminder, if you like what you hear on today's episode, you can invest in Totem on WeFunder, regardless of whether or not you're accredited. Have you ever imagined what it would feel like to be on vacation, say in an amusement park or a cruise, and your kiddos go missing? Like you can't see them in the crowd of people lining up for a parade or trying to get on a ride. It's every parent's worst nightmare. If you're not a parent, have you ever been at a music festival or traveling abroad and trying to meet up with your people and you have no cell service? Well, what if there was quite literally a compass-like device that instead of pointing north or south, pointed you towards your friend or child, regardless of whether or not there's a cell signal? That's where Totem comes into play. They've created an offline, decentralized technology that you wear around your neck like a real compass that will point you to your friends and family no matter what. At first, I was a bit skeptical, I'll be honest. But this team has sold 50,000 of these devices after launching just 2 years ago, and they had no idea the market they were even building. It started as an idea to connect friends at music festivals, but has found a multitude of applications, often involving families and kids that they didn't even think of when they started out. With strong growth, a lean team, and a business model I love, as in you pay once for the device and there's no subscription fee, I actually get it now, and I really do see the potential. Just one idea that came to mind for me when talking to him is that they could sell these at every gift shop in Disney to help keep families connected. I could see millions in business right there. And when you start to think about it, there is in some ways endless use cases for this device and technology. I came in a skeptic, but by the end of this conversation, I became a believer that there is a larger business to be had, and the team has already proven an ability to execute. So if the idea resonates with you, stay tuned for a great conversation with Carter. Now, let's get on to the show. So listen, let's start off with a little background on who are you, Carter, and how did you come to found Totem?
Yes, so we are Totem. Totem is a startup making tech that helps people stay connected to and communicate with their loved ones without relying on centralized networks. So no cell service, no Wi-Fi, and soon with our next product coming out a little later this summer, no reliance on the grid itself. It's like fully self-sustaining tech built for the real world that helps you communicate with, find your loved ones without relying on those centralized networks. Our debut product, if you've spent any time on social media, especially if you love concerts and live music, you've probably seen it online. Our debut product is the Totem Compass. It was the most viral product in the world over the last 2 years. We've done around 700 million views on social. I think it was the latest figures there. And our product goes viral about every 13 days on average since we founded the company. It's a super simple little thing. It's a pendant style wearable. It works just kind of like if you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, Captain Jack Sparrow's magic compass points you to what you want most in the world as long as you know what you want. Works very similar to, our tech works very similar to that. We just made that real. So it works without any cell service or Wi-Fi because it runs on our Unity Mesh network, which is now, after only 2 years, the largest privately owned offline communication network in the world. They're crazy accurate. They get down to about a meter in accuracy, update every second or two, real time. And this year, entering our second year in the market, we have around 52,000 users and have generated over $3.5 million in revenue. And latest update, just this past week, Totem has officially become profitable. So we've hit that profitability point right now. I founded the company myself with my co-founder Chase around 2 years ago. He's a brilliant engineer and product designer. He was originally one of the R&D engineers that worked on another very viral consumer product. If you know those fun little smiley face sponges that are on every corner aisle in every retail store around the country, the Scrub Daddy. He was there in the early days working with the Scrub Daddy himself to formulate those molecules in those sponges. So when I met Chase, he told me all about a few ideas for gadgets he'd been tinkering on in his spare time. One of them was this bracelet. He had gone to a music festival for the first time, had his phone stolen, which is a very common story out there. Even when you do have your phone, there's no cell service to be had. It's impossible to stay connected with everybody. And had this idea for a light up bracelet that would point in the direction of its peer without any cell service. And when he mentioned this to me, I knew there was something there. I was having a moment probably similar to you right now, where I was just flashing back in my life to all of these moments where something like that would have come in handy and saved my bacon. And my background is all in marketing and go-to-market. I worked as a marketing advisor at multiple startup accelerators before this, consulting for a lot of different startups. And so I just knew immediately there was something here. I would buy that in a heartbeat. I had a feeling a lot of other people would too. So I told him that I'd love to take that to market with him. And it blew up pretty quickly within a few weeks of us founding the company from there.
First off, can you help me understand, and I know you hit on it a little bit, but I'd love to understand a little bit more of like the core pain point that most people are utilizing this device for.
Yes. So I think a big reason why it has gone viral like it has, we've reached over 10% of millennials and Gen Z around the world through organic content alone on social media, is because this is addressing like a universal human problem. It's a universal human experience that dates back to pretty much the dawn of time. Everyone that's ever lived has experienced this, right? You look around, you say, where are my people? We've got a lot better at solving that in the modern era with cell phones and centralized networks, but there's some inherent challenges with those as well. Just in the last, you would think that cell service connectivity is getting better over time, but especially over the last decade, that's really not the case. The global population has grown by around 1 billion people in the last decade, so the world's more crowded than ever. Cell service is getting generally worse every year, at least here in the States. Cell outages rose 22% in 2024 alone. And we're asking the grid to do more and more each year as well. So, we originally designed this specific product, the Totem Compass, with that use case in mind, specifically designed for this market of music festivals, right? I understand with my background in go-to-market, the importance of really establishing your beachhead market, making sure that you have strong founder market fit there. And that's something that we both really understood. And it's a very share-happy market. And it's a market that, has ephemeral, expensive experiences that they're creating, and you only have a limited time out there. And again, the crowds are so dense, you cannot get a signal. And even when you can get a signal out there, it's almost impossible to find your person in crowds of, 200,000 all around a stadium over the weekend. So we originally designed it for music festivals, but it's taken off for so many other markets and use cases. Let me think here. Outdoor recreation, it's taken off. We had our ski patrol teams using this out in Colorado to coordinate themselves on the slopes of the mountains. It's taken off as an accessibility tool, especially in the blind and low vision community. I just had a call 2 weeks ago with a blind dad who had used it to find his family at Disney, which was a totally novel experience for him. Grid failures. I had a call last year where the customer had used it in Portugal when the whole grid went down in the Iberian Peninsula for like 48 hours or something, which is becoming a little bit more common these days. People are taking it to protests, theme parks, cruises, on vacation, and perhaps the biggest market of them all is families, right? Especially when you have kids under the age of 12 or 13. You don't want to put a smartphone in their hand and get them on the brain rot train, addicted to TikTok and everything. This really struck a chord with me early on because one of our earliest pre-order customers sent in a video of her 4-year-old using the Totem Compass to navigate a crowd on her own and find her grandfather. And there's just something special going on there. It's not an inert tracker that you're putting on your kid because they're a liability. It's something giving your kid agency, autonomy, independence in the real world. And I think that's what every parent wants.
So if I have one of your devices, and it sounds like each individual that's kind of in your family or your friend group or whatever it is, they each need to have this. Now tell me, what is the experience like when you're trying to find them? Is it buzzing for me? So I see, for folks who are just listening to this, you're wearing the device around your neck.
Yes.
So what happens with that device to tell you you're moving in the right direction?
Yeah, so all you have to do with the Totem Compass itself is pick it up. So you're wearing it like a pendant, right? But the second you pick it up, it has an IMU in it that switches it automatically, or as I like to say, automagically, into compass mode and starts pointing you in the direction of your friends or family. Each person gets a dedicated color on the Totem Compass. And when you want to find them, all you have to do is follow their color, follow the pretty light. It'll take you right to them in any size crowd, down to a few feet in ideal situations. We get pretty amazing accuracy. But yeah, it works just like a normal compass, The light points you in their direction, and their color gets bigger as you get closer, smaller as you get further away. When you finally find them, you collect their light into your crystal at the end. So when you and your family are all together, you'll pick it up and all of their lights will be clustered inside of your touch crystal in the middle of the compass.
That's very cool. In terms of the business model, how much is the device? And then is there an ongoing kind of software fee?
Yeah, so we sell them right now for around $70 or $79 MSRP. Something that's really inherent and been important to us from the beginning is the importance of network effects, the power of network effects, right? Obviously, it's a very shareable device, and we've seen network effects in our growth and marketing, but we've built that into our pricing models as well. So it's a device that only gets more valuable the more people you know that have it. It only performs better the more that there are around because of the mesh network. And it generally gets more affordable the more you buy at once, too. So people generally get around 3.2 totem compasses per order. And love sharing the word. It's a very visible thing, as you can see on my chest right here. It's almost like a walking billboard. It attracts attention. You can't go anywhere wearing this thing without someone asking you about it. So it really does market itself pretty well. So we have a bunch of sidecar products and accessories as well. This is a model you see oftentimes in hardware right now. You have the lead product. We've intentionally priced it for accessibility around the world to fuel those network effects early on. Also because we have a very international customer base. Of our 52,000 customers so far, they're spread across over 75 countries around the world. So it's important that we keep it accessibly priced for international markets on that side. Our sidecar products and accessories are much higher margin, so those boost all of our GP and our margin there. Right now we have no additional subscriptions, which is something that people find so refreshing in the modern world, especially in this kind of cultural turning point we see now with people are moving more toward analog experiences, real world experiences. I just read an article last night about kids using landlines now. So this is something that people are hungry for. And the fact that we don't have any subscriptions involved with it, you just own the device and it's yours and there is no middleman. You are generating your own network between you and your loved ones that doesn't need anything else to work. People really, really love that.
Love the business model. Love the fact that you're not charging this like monthly ongoing fee. Frankly, I think it'll make people want to use it more, right? Because now, we have to re-sign up for the, the fee, whatever. I think that's really important. Makes a ton of sense from my perspective. There certainly is a real pain point there, and I could see a lot of people being interested in this product.
Mm-hmm.
But behind the scenes, you mentioned there's kind of this decentralized network. It can work offline without, access to a cell signal and all these things. Without giving away too much, help us understand, how does that work? What did you build to enable this?
Mm-hmm. So the Totem Compass and all of our future products, which we will all refer to as collectively as Totems, work with our peer-to-peer mesh network. It's a 100% decentralized offline communication network. So the Totems talk directly to each other. You can think about it kind of like Bluetooth, like how your phone talks to a Bluetooth speaker, except it's much, much lower latency, ultra low latency, and the range is incredible. Between two of them, the range goes up to around 1,000 meters. That's like 2/3 of a mile. And each additional totem in the area just extends your signal even further. So it's kind of like everybody is in a bigger family helping you keep track of your family, right? And you can kind of think about it basically as an intranet instead of an internet. You're just creating your own ephemeral pop-up network wherever you use them at any time. And that's how, they work without any reliance on Wi-Fi or cell service whatsoever. As long as there are enough totems in the area, you can get pretty much boundless range in any specific location, venue, event, which is why it's become so popular, especially for crowd events, live entertainment, etc. The network is called the Unity Mesh Network, and it has become, as I mentioned earlier, the largest privately owned offline communication network in the world. which I think is really important. I think that's the direction that technology is taking right now. Centralization is not the future. I think it's just been the best tool that we had to get us to this point in time. But if we had the ability to build decentralized networks 30 years ago, I don't think we would have ever spent the time that we did erecting all these cell towers, putting together these grids, etc.
Sounds like to date, direct-to-consumer has been the core model of how you sell this product. Talk to me a little bit about the marketing strategy, especially as kind of a go-to-market person. It sounds like there's been a lot of organic content and things like that. And then I'd love to understand if you're thinking longer term about, partnership. I mean, I can imagine a world where, Disney World has these in every shop, right? And people could buy it directly off the shop and, have it when they're on vacation in Disney World, right? I feel like there's probably hundreds of thousands of orders, now millions of orders directly just at Disney every year. So yeah, talk to me about like longer term go-to-market strategy thoughts.
I really view our addressable market with Totem as nearly every person in the world, because I really do believe that every single person in the world could use a totem. If we're thinking about a totem as something that helps you stay connected with, communicate with your loved ones, no matter what, fully self-sustaining technology. It's really just our task to design totems that fit every person's lifestyle and use case. So we have plans for, of course, this pendant, smaller versions, bracelets, rings, designed for kids, designed for like kind of tactical outdoor, long range situations. There are a lot of different models that this can take. And, our go-to-market has been incredibly organic. We only started running ads even toward the end of last year. Everything to that point was 100% organic growth online. So as I mentioned, over 700 million views on social media, around 100 viral videos across platforms. And by viral, I mean over 1 million views each with no ad spend. And we've reached around, I think it's now 7% of the global population with our content, just purely organically. And like I mentioned earlier, around 15% of Gen Z and millennials specifically. It's just something that gets shared itself very quickly. And we've spent so much time emphasizing and building into those network effects. So nowadays, it's almost impossible to wear this anywhere where people ask, what is that anymore? People mostly just ask how much you like it. Do you love it? How well it works for you in that situation. So it's been all direct to consumer for us thus far. We've generated, like I mentioned, over 3.5 million in revenue, and that's just been all straight through our e-commerce store. This is the year where we're beginning to open up additional revenue streams and distribution channels, getting some on-site distribution at different live events, and opening up partnerships with retailers, resellers, distributors internationally. Just to continue growing the company and open up some additional streams for us there. So this year we are projecting, we're seeing around 172% year over year growth over the last 6 months. That's almost tripling what we've done, or what we're growing at that rate, almost tripling over time. And we're projecting around 4.92 in revenue this year, purely from direct-to-consumer sales, and that's around $2 million in net profit.
In terms of your go-to-market, to your point, you kind of look at this as, the entire population, right, is really addressable to the technology you've built. You've gotten tons and tons and tons and tons of views. Sounds like tens of millions of views. Now, on the other side of it, right, you've sold 52,000 products, which is really tremendous, and it sounds like you have really tremendous growth. But what is the lag? How do you get more adoption within those 100 million views? How do you get 2 million sales or 3 million sales instead of tens of thousands of sales? How do you think about scaling that up?
Yeah, so it's an excellent question because if I can kind of contextualize our funnel, right? Let's say there's 711 million views. That's around 490 million people reached. 24 million people have interacted with our content, engaged with it, right? Liked, commented, shared, saved, something along those lines. So that's what I view our top of funnel as right now. I'm around 24 million people around the world. And I think that's it's the most top heavy funnel I have ever heard of in my time as an entrepreneur in business. And so that's really our task right now, is moving people along that funnel. And what you're really addressing here is a classic challenge of any early stage company because, like I mentioned, we just founded the company 2 years ago. The product has been in the market now for less than 18 months. So what we're talking about is crossing the chasm, right? From early adopters to the early majority, the early mainstream of users. And how you do that is you continue to simplify the process or simplify the user experience as much as possible. The goal is to make it so that your average 5-year-old can pick it up and use it successfully within a few minutes, and your average 75-year-old can pick it up and use it successfully within a few minutes. So that's what our primary focus is in simplifying the user experience as much as possible. And we are beginning to run retargeting ads, like I mentioned, over the last 6 months or so, that perform incredibly well because we don't have to make anyone aware of the product. The product awareness is there already in place, and that's the hardest part about bringing a product to market. It's just about sharing more stories, sharing those examples of people using it and having a great time. And that's one thing that we really benefit from with this product because it's a product with stories are inherent to the experience, right? Almost every time you use the Totem Compass, it sets up like a plot narrative structure, like the hero's journey, right? Problem, realization, stakes, resolution. You get these like massive emotional dumps of the panic at the beginning and the joy at the end. So as we continue to get, expand adoption, more and more people using it in greater situations, and we can just share those stories, I think the growth will continue to take care of itself.
It certainly sounds like, a big piece of this is education, right? It's a brand new thing that didn't exist, and you have to educate them, and then you got to get them in the right moment. And that's where I do think, like, the retail side of things, being in those right locations, I'm on the cruise ship. Well, you know what? That would be really useful, right, over the next week while we're on this ship. So I totally get that. Now, from my perspective, not knowing a ton, it feels as though the biggest competition would be someone saying, well, I use the phone tracker, right? My kids have a phone tracker. I use that. How do you butt up against that? Is that just not your core consumer? Is there an application in time when that's not going to work for them? How do you think about that?
Yeah, so I would definitely say our top competitors are primarily Apple's Find My Network and the AirTag, right? And those specifically, especially the AirTag, is made for tracking things. Both of these networks are, and really any similar networks on those lines, are not purely offline networks. They do require some tether to the internet or cell service along the way, which is not something you can fully rely on. But even more broadly than that, I think we're sitting at a bit of a cultural tipping point where attitudes around particularly cell phones and screen time is really changing. 109 is a number that I come back to regularly. That's the number of days that Gen Z spends looking at a screen every year these days. We spend 106 days asleep. That just leaves 150 days left over for everything else, or as I like to refer it, life, right? So it's 40% of our conscious lives are spent on a screen. Since the iPhone hit mainstream ubiquity in 2010, depression rates have outright doubled in younger generations, and diagnosed anxiety is up over 100%. Americans are now spending 70% less time with their friends than they did a decade ago, and 12% of Americans say that they have no close friends at all, which is up from 3% in 1990. So there's something deeper at play here as well. We're offering real-world, genuine connection. No screens, nothing else to distract you and pull you out of the moment. We're a very, very rare profile of tech company where we are not here to try to steal your attention and monetize your attention. We're trying to give it back to you and turn it back on the world around you, the people surrounding you, and your life itself.
I think you guys have done a really impressive job of, one, driving real traction, real revenue growth in a very short period of time. You're building a wholly new category, and you're doing something net positive from my perspective, especially in this day and age, to your point, on all the things that you just hit at, while still meeting a real need, right? With all that said, it's certainly a really interesting company and an interesting moment in time to become a part of the company. For those investors who are on the line or thinking about investing, but they're not there yet, I'll give you the last word. What do you want them to know?
Yeah, for those people, I would begin by saying you've probably heard the kind of old saying in tech investing, hardware is hard, right? People love to say that. And it's true. Hardware is very hard, but it's also incredibly sticky, as I've learned, especially when it's something that you are wearing that connects you to the people that you love, that you come to rely on in situations where everything else fails you, the kind of relationship you can build with that technology so far exceeds anything that you can do with software. And especially now in the day of AI, the moats around software companies are thinner and thinner and thinner. And what's something that AI cannot do, and perhaps will never truly be able to do, is build a true global supply chain and distribution network and all those human relationships you need to make that happen. Self-sustaining tech is the future, not relying on any networks or grids moving forward. And we already, after just 2 years into the company, are running the largest offline communication network in the world. Something else on the back end as well that's a bit of a longer play for us is we are collecting one of the most robust, high precision data models in the world on how crowds move through the real world. And we've already hit over 6 million logs in our database, capturing exactly that down to, foot by foot, second by second precision. This is 100% anonymous, but it's just how crowds move as an organic being, right? So the application for that is so endless. And the reason why that 6 million logs milestone is important is because that is the moment when we can begin training AI on that proprietary data to forecast how crowds will move before events even happen or before anything happens. So when you think about, as we begin expanding even more broadly into everyday use around the world, that data could also have immense applications beyond entertainment, right? Even for city planners, architects, anything along those lines. So I like to think of Totem as being a pretty unique startup. It's all the long-term upside of kind of SaaS and AI play with the financial stability of a profitable hardware company. I think that's why we've gotten these excellent ratings from Kingscrowd on our round on WeFunder right now. And it really is something that just has endless use cases, and this is the direction that the world is going. So everyone needs a totem. It's just whether you think that we have the ability to design those totems to meet the use cases for people all around the world.
If you like what you heard on the show today, you can invest $250 or more in Totem on WeFunder until April 30th, 2026. And of course, if you want to learn more about why Totem scored a rare 5 out of 5 on the Kingscrowd proprietary rating scale, you can go to kingscrowd.com and search Totem. As always, if you liked what you heard on the show today, please like, subscribe, and share our podcast wherever you listen so more investors like you can find us. Thanks for tuning in, and happy investing.